Center. And a good morning to you on a Thursday morning. Just a brief reminder, if you have asthma or any other breathing issues, caution as to how much time you spend outside and what kind of activities you do because of the wildfire smoke that we're suffering through this morning and probably tomorrow. And in regard to that, Party on McCarty has been canceled for tonight and rescheduled into August. Later on, open phones at 10 o'clock, and at 11 o'clock, we'll talk to Ken Buck from Buck Insurance. But we start this hour talking about scams and how to prevent you being a victim. And we do that with the Assistant Attorney General for the state of Michigan, one of many, but we say good morning to Assistant Attorney General Darren Fowler. Darren, good morning to you.
Good morning, Art. Thank you for making time for our office today.
No, thanks for calling. We appreciate it. How serious a problem are scams in this country?
They are a major problem, Art. There are scams going on of all kinds of varieties. Literally, millions of people throughout the country are scammed every year by virtue of something, and it's a matter of degrees. Some scams are small, some are very, very costly and cost people their life savings. We see them in Michigan, and the federal government agencies like the FTC collect and publish lots of data on the number they're getting. What's unfortunate is we'll never know the total number because there's a lot of people who fall victim to scams are very embarrassed about that and don't tell anybody. They'd rather absorb a loss than endure the embarrassment of people knowing that it happened to them.
How do we know how many of these scams originate inside the United States and how many come from foreign nations?
We have no clue. I'll tell you that at our office, when we learn of new scams, that we do try to undertake to understand the origin right from the very beginning. There's a lot of things that happen from outside the country that, unfortunately, our office simply does not have the resources to do anything about other than to try to work to educate consumers about what is going on out there. We do alert federal agencies about scams that we...
Back with you in conversation with Assistant Attorney General Darren Fowler from the Michigan Department of Attorney General, talking about scams. And Darren, when you were describing the Coca-Cola scam, a thought crossed my mind, and I'm not sure what the legal consequences are, but does a bank have any liability if they accept a bad check like that?
In most instances, Art, they do not. The process simply is not set up or equipped to deal with that kind of situation in a way that makes the bank liable.
I always thought that if you took a check with for example, a forged signature and the bank accepted it, that there would be some recourse, but I guess not.
The other aspect that comes along with that is, although there is some regulation of banking at the state level, the primary regulation of banking activity goes on at the federal level. And again, there's only so many resources to match so many problems. And even if there's an angle that some federal regulator could find in a particular situation, it's happening so much throughout the country that there'd be no way to deal with it for everybody.
So let me ask this, because we now have to contend with AI. Has that made this situation worse?
It has. And, when we talk about things that are affecting all age groups, AI is really contributing to that. And I can give you two very specific examples that we are trying to deal with, from enforcement standpoints. We've got an active investigation going on right now of an entity called Ticket Squeeze. What we have come to discover is there are a large number of websites out there throughout the country where consumers can actually go and legitimately buy tickets to an event. And like one that reached our radar screen was somebody purchased tickets to go see a production at a venue on the University of Michigan's campus. That person thought she was actually buying the tickets from the venue itself, but what it was an AI-generated copycat website where the tickets were being sold at a significant upcharge. So, when we talk about there are degrees of scams. There's some scam artists out there who are simply looking to take your money and give you absolutely nothing for it. There are other scam artists out there who are trying to pretend to be someone or something they're not. They may even be giving you something like the tickets you think you're buying, but you're not buying it who you think you are buying it from at the price you should be paying for it. So we came to discover that this particular entity has lots of these copycat websites out there that make the consumers think they're buying from the venue. They're not. And in most instances, they're getting the tickets, sometimes not, but they're always paying an upcharge. That entity, that person who's behind it, we've come to learn is outside the country. We're trying to work with officials from Great Britain to try to push this along a little bit further. But that's an example of where, especially because things can be AI generated and from outside the country, our ability to address something that we know is happening is even limited. Another example I want to give that really very much affected Michigan that fortunately we were able to stop. There were some AI-generated websites that we discovered that were selling tickets to the Mackinac Island Ferry and Fort Mackinac itself. And to the consumer, looking at it without carefully scrutinizing it, it may have appeared that it was actually you were buying it from the ferry company or from Fort Mackinac itself. And the reality is somebody used AI to generate lookalike sites and was, again, they were legitimately selling the tickets, but at an upcharge. And they even did include some fine print if you scrolled far enough down to see that. But it was ultimately a deception because most consumers don't scroll down and read that fine print. They trust what looks to them like to be the legitimate website. It happened that we were able, through our tools, to identify who that perpetrator was. It was someone outside of Michigan, but inside the United States, and we did get an agreement for those websites to come down and for that person to not do any more websites of any Michigan attraction. But we also did that knowing all our office could control is Michigan, and that same person and entity do have other websites for a variety of attractions throughout the country.
Mm. And did you get a legitimate ticket?
Yes.
You did.
In that instance, the consumers were getting legitimate tickets, and we did a test purchase ourselves to see how that was going. And that's, one of the things we do. We are within the Attorney General's office. We have investigators. We have attorneys. We have non-attorneys who take consumer complaints and help us kind of see what's going on. And in that instance, like we can use an investigator to do a sample purchase online to see it from the consumer's perspective and capture the evidence that we need.
Is it easier to trace online scams as opposed to dial-ups, robocalls, and all of that?
I don't know that neither one is easy. So to compare which is easier, I'm not sure that I would know the answer to that. Not being a tech person, I'm an attorney who relies on what the investigators ultimately conclude. I think they are both very challenging, and in most instances, we are not able to identify the perpetrator in either a robocall scam or an online scam.
So as we sit here today, what scams top the list? Is there a certain type of scam that tops the list?
Well, there's certainly ones that I think a lot of your listeners and people throughout the state are, seeing on their cell phones. The text scams, you've got unpaid toll charges. There's a warrant out for your arrest. You've got to show up and at the courthouse on X date or click here and pay a link. Those are happening constantly throughout the state. Over the past year, we've seen a lot of them. Those are, small money item scams that some people fall victim to really because they think the hassle of going to court is, a hassle and I don't want to be troubled with that, or the added fees on not paying for some toll, even though I don't believe I owe anything. I just may as well pay that $15 or $30 or whatever and be out from under it. So those kind of small ones constantly are going around. Same for solicitations on your cell phone for job offers that aren't real job offers. That's happening all the time. In terms of the bigger ticket scams where people are getting taken for more money, I think romance-related scams are, one of the biggest ones that we hear about, and, frankly, one of the saddest form of scam. It's somebody out there taking advantage of somebody's loneliness, desire for love. We all have that desire, and exploiting it for their financial gain.
Yeah. Can you hang on for one more second?
Absolutely.
Good. All right, hang on. We're talking to Assistant Attorney General Darren Fowler with the Michigan Department of Attorney General's office about scams, and we'll come back with another segment here right after these notes.
Gotta go.
And we're back with you here on WSUW, talking to Michigan Assistant Attorney General Darren Fowler about scams and scam prevention and the like. So Darren, what advice do you give to family members? Because in this day and age, everybody's busy, and a lot of seniors separate from their siblings, their youngsters, simply because everybody's busy working and they're alone. What do you tell family members to look out for when it comes to their senior family members?
Well, in terms of looking out for, I think it's probably just, establishing a line of communication so that there's a basis to have a conversation about a scam or somebody who may be feeling stress if they're part of an ongoing scam. And, some of the scams very much are ongoing experiences, and the romance scams are a big example of that, where it isn't all the money being handed over at once. It's something that happens over a carefully constructed process over time, where there's initial asks for small amounts of money for seemingly genuine things, and as the scam artist sees that money is going to keep coming, they build the asks to bigger amounts. So I think having an ongoing dialogue with someone about what is going on in their lives in general can help those types of experiences be brought to our attention. I think it's much harder to reach out to somebody you haven't spoken to in 6 months or a year or many years and say, hey, is anybody taking money from you for anything? So I think it's just keeping that natural human connection with people that we care about or feel some responsibility for. If it's just a neighbor, making a visit occasionally and sitting down and having a conversation, knowing that they're on their own and may not have somebody to talk to. I think that's the best thing we can do. The other thing then is just being attentive to what, some of the classic features of a scam are. And kind of coming at it with the perspective of there's simply a lot of imposters out there, whether it's somebody who's posing as a romantic partner online or, when we talk about fake websites, ultimately that's an imposter. All scams involve some type of imposter persona, and just knowing that happens is important. Scams always involve some type of lure. It's urgency. You got to do it now, or high pressure. This is a one-time offer. Take advantage of it now. Or deals that are just too good to be true. We've got to be attentive to those, classic kind of tactics that are used and in some way are related to all the scams we've talked about today. And then another big one, red flag, is just weird payment methods. Go to the bank and withdraw $10,000 cash. Go to a cryptocurrency place and send money this way. Cryptocurrency, cash, gold bars. We had one individual who was subject to a scam, reached out to our office after being asked to present almost $200,000 worth of gold
Wow.
to a scam artist and fell for it, unfortunately. So weird payment methods. But I need to add to that, there's so many unregulated online payment methods now that people need to be really careful. When you deal with apps like Cash App or PayPal or Venmo, things like that, those are largely completely unregulated arenas. And once you give money to a scam artist using one of those vehicles, there's no way to get that money back. Banks have some degree of regulatory responsibilities. Those random apps that are all over the internet that we use, they may be great for sending money to somebody you know and trust. But sending money because you think somebody's going to be sending you tickets or something that you've never met before, you're taking a chance. That is a gamble.
And that, it's they play on our emotions, don't they? I mean, it's we're all eager to do things and get a deal, so to speak, and that very deal can be what breaks you.
Yeah, we had one I remember when Taylor Swift was touring. Somebody spent a large amount of money for Taylor Swift tickets to buy them from somebody who had posted it online and did, I don't remember which Cash App was used, Cash App or Venmo or whichever method. But this person paid a lot of money for Taylor Swift tickets to a scam artist, and that money was simply gone. So yeah, playing on an emotion or a desire, whether it's love or wanting to have an experience, going to an event, or to an economic opportunity. Hey, you're going to make a tremendous amount of money if you invest in this crypto opportunity. Or another big one that we see a lot of is where scam artists have gotten access to consumers' computers. There's a Microsoft pop-up scam. Consumer gets on their computer a pop-up that says your computer has been, there's a problem. Call Microsoft at this number. But it's not Microsoft's number. It's an imposter's number. And then that person is supposedly talking you through how to deal with the tech problem. You end up giving them access to the computer. They then have access to all your financial information and are taking advantage of you. And the person I mentioned who ended up handing over $195,000 in gold was one of those Microsoft pop-up scam victims. That kind of scam ultimately plays out where the consumer is led to believe the FBI or the Department of Justice is involved and everything's being set up as a sting and to protect you from being prosecuted from what looks like crimes on your computers, but we know it was someone else. They're making the consumer think that they're being part of an investigation and helping federal authorities when, in fact, they are simply being exploited for large amounts of money.
Do any of the virus protection programs for your computer detect scams or can at least throw up a warning flag?
I don't know the answer to that question, Art. Again, I'm unfortunately not a tech guy. I'm more familiar with some of the consequences of scams than specific measures like you're describing.
I guess the question is, when it comes to prevention, you deal with the other end of it. I want to deal with the front end of it, and prevent it from happening. So let's just in concluding here, somebody thinks they're becoming a victim of a scam, may have been a victim of a scam, or trying to prevent it. Who should they contact first? What's the first line of defense?
Well, like I said, if it's an online scam, I think the FTC is a great resource for that. But honestly, I think it's better to be reporting to somebody than nobody. So if the Attorney General's office is coming to mind, use our website, the michigan.gov/consumer protection. If it's someone out there who just isn't comfortable using the internet or accessing like that or just wants to talk a situation through, we have some very kind people who answer our phones at the Attorney General's office and would be willing to talk to somebody. Our phone number there is 517-335-7599. I'd encourage anybody who's worried about something to talk to their family members, talk to friends about what's going on and get some input into it. One of the calls we had on a romance scam during the past year was a brother who saw that his sister was the victim of a romance scam, and he was frustrated because he couldn't persuade her that Phil Collin, guitarist for Def Leppard, really wasn't romancing his sister. And so he reached out to us and was simply trying to get some help persuading her about what was going on.
Yeah, those are some of the toughest ones. I've seen a number of stories about the romantic scams, and because there's an emotional thing going on besides the financial thing. Very difficult to convince someone that they're not in a relationship with someone. That's really too bad too, because people are losing a lot of money. A lot of money. Yeah. Well, listen, Darren, I appreciate your time this morning and talking about this. We'll have to do it again because it's one of those topics that's not going to go away, unfortunately. And with AI, could get worse.
No, but we've done some good work. Thank you, Art, for the opportunity to communicate with your listeners today.
Pleasure. We'll do it again. Darren, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Darren Fowler, he is Assistant Attorney General in Dana Nessel's office, talking about scams. And, I mean, have you ever found yourself on the receiving end of a scam? What do you do about it? All right, we're going to have open phones for the remainder of this hour and into next hour. All next hour is open. Let me take a moment to talk about something that is not a scam. It's a pothole. It's real. You don't get scammed with it, but you can injure your car. You can affect your alignment, all kinds of things. And our friends at Quick Lane Freeland are offering you a complimentary alignment check to make sure that with all the potholes, railroad crossings, what have you, you haven't knocked your car out of alignment. And if you want to know how important it is, I've asked John from Quick Lane Freeland to tell us about alignment.
If your vehicle's wheels are aligned correctly, it will not pull to the left or to the right when driving. It also prevents improper tread wear, so your tires last longer. A wheel alignment should be checked often because normal steering wear and tear can cause your alignment to go out in addition to potholes and railroad crossings. A correct alignment also reduces rolling resistance on your tires for better fuel mileage.
Thank you, John. And remember, it also makes for safe driving. And by the way, if one of the things they find is that you need tires, they sell all of their new tires at just $5 over cost. It's all at Quick Lane Freeland on the McDonald Ford property. McDonald Ford and Quick Lane Freeland are two names you should remember for your automotive needs in 2026.
Check 1, 2.
All right, I'm back with you here on WSGW. We'll hold off the open phones till next hour, but 10 o'clock hour will be all open phones for the entire hour. I want to talk just for a minute about air quality because it's a serious, serious matter right now. We're getting all the smoke from the Canadian fires and also some fires west of Lake Michigan in Wisconsin, Minnesota area. Our hazardous condition, and that is, by the way, the highest rating you can get from the EPA, has a number attached to it. And our number in the early hours of the morning was 352. It has since dropped a little bit to 328, but still it is in the hazardous position. And that pollutant position is currently the highest that you can get. So if you have health problems, breathing problems, asthma, you might really want to be cautious about what you do outside today. And even if you don't, you're breathing in these particulates. And also, to go along with that, Party on McCarty has been postponed tonight and moved into August because of all of this smoke. We've had this before. I don't know if it was this bad before. I don't remember. I just know that this is not a healthy condition. Certainly not healthy, that's for sure. All right, so we're going to take our last break here, and it'll take us right into the news from ABC and the local report with Michael Percha. And then we will be back with open phones next hour here on WSGW.
Big insurance, big pharma.
Coming up next, news from ABC to bring you up to date on the world and the nation. Michael Percha's in the WSGW newsroom. He'll fill you in on the region and the state. And then we will be back with open phones right after the news. I'm Art Lewis.
Broadcasting from the